One moment the Fitzgerald is on the Andersons' radar, the next, nothing. No distress call, no flare, no goodbye. Just gone. 29 men, the biggest ship on the Great Lakes, and nobody on Earth knows what happened in those final seconds. This is South Coast Hack. But to understand how we got there, you have to go back 12 hours to a Tuesday morning, clear skies, a cold dock, and one more run before Thanksgiving. The morning of November 9th, 1975, the dock at Superior, Wisconsin feels kind of ordinary. Cold air off the water, iron ore and diesel, a sky so blue it almost doesn't belong to November. And there she is, the SS Edmund Fitzgerald, 729 feet of her, the Queen of the Lakes, the mighty Fitz. You've been on her since spring, 3 weeks left in the season. One more run, taconite pellets to Detroit, and you're done until April. You are a deckhand. Your world is the spar deck, the long open spine of the ship, bow to stern, exposed to everything the lake can throw. And this morning, your job is the hatches, 21 of them, each one held down by 68 clamps. 68 clamps per hatch, 21 hatches, 1,428 clamps total. In a storm, every single one matters. On a clear November morning like this one, you dog 8 per hatch, 2 per corner, the way you were trained, the way everyone does it. You work down the line with your wrench, 8 per hatch. Click, click, click. The culture says that's enough. The Fitz has crossed this lake 1,000 times. Before the lines come off, you stop at your bunk. There's a photograph taped above it, a kitchen table, a woman by the window, pink glasses, a worried smile. Marge. One more run, then Thanksgiving. You promised her that on the same dock, last week, when she came to see you off. She said, "Be careful." You said, "It's the Fitz, Mom." She nodded like she believed you. Here's what you didn't know, standing on that dock with your wrench. 10 days earlier, on October 31st, a scheduled inspection had found that the Fitzgerald's hatch covers didn't seal completely. The inspectors noted it. Repairs were ordered for the 1976 season. The ship was cleared to sail. The culture didn't say be careful. The culture said the Fitz doesn't go down. And somewhere between that blue morning sky and where the Fitzgerald was headed, the lake was already deciding something that no one on that ship would ever fully understand. At 2:15 p.m., the Fitzgerald cleared the Superior entry and pushed north. The water was almost calm. Captain Arthur McSorley, 63 years old, one of the most experienced men on the Great Lakes, last season before retirement, was in radio contact with Captain Bernie Cooper on the Arthur M. Anderson, a sister ship out of Two Harbors. They agreed on the northerly route, hugging the Canadian shore for protection. It was a reasonable call. McSorley had made it before, but the storm forming over Kansas that morning had plans no forecast predicted, and it was moving northeast, fast, straight toward the shipping lanes, straight toward the Fitz. By nightfall, gale warnings were up. By morning of November 10th, storm warnings. Winds over 60 knots. Waves toward 25 feet. The spar deck was already taking spray. And then, it stopped being spray. The lake is kind of patient that way. It doesn't announce itself. It just keeps coming. By mid-morning, seas were boarding the spar deck in full. Green water, heavy, crashing over the bow and rolling stern. You can't check the hatches now. You couldn't walk out there if you tried. The decision made yesterday morning on a clear dock in Superior. 8 clamps per hatch, wrench in hand, blue sky above. That decision is made. It's behind you. It's under 6 feet of black water every time a wave sweeps the deck. And below you, in the cargo holds, there is no sensor, no alarm, no way to know what's happening in the dark. At 1:40 p.m., McSorley radioed Cooper. The Fitzgerald had been, he said, rolling some. That was the whole message. At 3:30 he came back. Different. I have sustained some topside damage. I have a fence rail laid down. 2 vents lost or damaged, and the list. I'm checking down. Will you stay by me till I get to Whitefish? A fence rail down. 2 vents gone. Taking a list. He wasn't calling for rescue. He was asking a companionship to stay close. The wrench is still on your belt, but the hatches are buried under black water now. You can't go back. You can't undo a single clamp you tightened, or didn't, on the sunny dock yesterday morning. 10 minutes after the 3:30 call, McSorley radioed again. I have lost both radars. Can you provide me with radar plots till we reach Whitefish Bay? Both radars. Gone. Navigating blind, in the worst storm in years, on a lake with shoals that had ended ships before, relying on the Anderson, 3 miles back, fighting the same seas to tell her where she was. The Fitzgerald pressed toward Whitefish Point, the one fixed beacon in that stretch of water. At approximately 4:39, McSorley tried to raise it. Silence. The Whitefish Point lighthouse was not operating. The light was out. No radar, no beacon. Storm at full force. Every system that was supposed to protect them, gone. Simultaneously, in a single November afternoon. At approximately 5:30, McSorley reached the Ava 4s on radio. One of the worst seas I've ever been in. 37 years on the Great Lakes, he had never seen this. And then, in that same transmission, a voice in the background, not the captain, someone else, unidentified, shouting over the storm, "Don't let nobody on deck!" That was all. 5 words. No name, no explanation. Someone on the Edmund Fitzgerald knew the spar deck was unsurvivable, and the ship kept moving. At 7:10 p.m., Cooper radioed McSorley. How was the Fitzgerald weathering the storm? McSorley's voice came back. Clear. Calm. We are holding our own. You think about the photograph over your bunk. Marge is probably watching the news by now, waiting for the 6 o'clock report that says nothing's wrong. 11 minutes. That is the time between the last human voice from the Edmund Fitzgerald and the moment she disappeared from every radar screen on Lake Superior. No SOS. No flare. No call. Cooper looked at the screen. The blip was gone. He called the Fitzgerald. Again. Again. Nothing came back. 29 families found out on the 6 o'clock news. A news anchor saying the name of the ship. That is how they found out. The investigation ran for years. Divers reached the wreck at 530 feet, split in 2, bow buried in the lake bed. The Coast Guard said probable cause was flooding through ineffective hatch closures. The Lake Carriers Association disagreed. Others pointed to shoal damage near Caribou Island. None was found. Every theory had evidence, every theory had a counter, and the Coast Guard Marine Board finally wrote the line that closed all of it, and none of it. The proximate cause of the loss of the SS Edmund Fitzgerald cannot be determined. The 8 clamps or the 68. The October inspection or the November storm. The beacon that went dark or the vents gone by 3:30. The lake kept everything. The bodies, the final seconds, the answer. Every year on November 10th, a bell rings 29 times at Whitefish Point, a few miles from where she went down. The Edmund Fitzgerald was the last major commercial shipwreck on the Great Lakes. Since November 10th, 1975, there have been 0. 29 men changed Great Lakes maritime safety. They never got to see it matter. The old deckhand at Superior, loading day, November 9th. He said it almost to himself as he walked up the gangway. Lake Superior never gives up her dead. No bodies were ever recovered from the Edmund Fitzgerald. No distress signal was ever sent. No explanation was ever found. The deckhand was right about all of it.